rank the creeds, and here are your choices: Apollo, Scott Stapp's Band, and Creed Bratton. Go.
Creed Bratton, number one, hands down. Creed Bratton, who I understand, based on the memes that I see on the internet, Creed Bratton was not actually playing a character; he just was himself in The Office. Okay, so that's number one, and I don't know anything about the other two. So
You don't know Creed the Band?
yeah, okay, I don't know anything about Creed the band except that are they like somehow an association with Nickelback is coming to mind. Like they're a band that everybody loves to hate, right?
Yeah, genre rise. They get lumped together, and the meme is they're called butt rock.
Okay.
And it was because like late 90s, early 2000s, these radio stations, their advertisements were say, we're 97.1. We play nothing but rock.
There you go. I love it.
But Creed has had a resurgence in the last 5 years, and it's come around again. It's cool to listen to Creed again.
Excellent. I'll have to do that after my 70-day fast from secular music with Memento 70. That's memento70.com or org. I can't remember. In any case, I'm gonna have to. I'll do it after. I'll do it after I listen fast from secular music.
This is a terrible ad read. First of all, because you don't remember the website. Second of all, because we're not getting paid for it.
Well, I know, that's why I don't have to remember it, because we're not getting... Hang on. I want to do it justice because I am a contributor. Memento70.com. There you go. That's the website.
Yeah, I mean, this is tangential, but they can make extensions with anything these days. This has been a new web development in the last
I know.
10 years. Yeah.
It's trickier because it used to be that like if a search result came up and it had a weird extension, you knew that it was a phishing website. Like that was obvious, and that it becomes less and less obvious now that there's this whole diversity of extensions.
I always thought it was cool back in the day when I went to like a .co.uk website.
There you go. Yeah, maybe it's the dark web.
That's right. And then I remember, and I still do this, but it's en.wikipedia.org for
There you go.
for English. Okay, and then Apollo Creed, of course, Rocky.
Yeah,
which
is he in the first Rocky movie? I've only seen the first Rocky movie.
I'm LARPing. I've never seen any of them.
Oh my goodness. Did you know that Sylvester Stallone wrote Rocky, then cast himself as the lead? But I mean, the dude, this was his big thing. It's like he wrote the story.
No, I didn't know that. That's amazing.
It is amazing. We should get him on the podcast.
Okay, now the real question is, what's your favorite ecumenical creed?
Yeah, so I do love the Apostles' Creed. I love it for its simplicity. I love it that the kids can learn it easily. Yep, I love the Apostles' Creed.
I'm sensing a trend with you because what's your favorite gospel?
Mark, yeah, that's true. I like short and sweet. Mm-hmm.
Not to denigrate it. Although you're not a Mark and priority guy, are you?
I don't care. How about that?
Okay, that's fair. I only bring it up. It doesn't matter ultimately, but what does matter is your line of reasoning to getting there.
Fair enough, and that's a really good point, which is related to another question about authorship. So, does it matter if Mark actually wrote the gospel? What if it's got a pseudonym, or what if it was written by somebody else, but we call it Mark? Does it matter?
I think it does matter for the integrity of the. So the early church certainly attributed it to him. I'll give you another example. So a lot of people will say that Peter didn't write Second Peter. That becomes problematic because he signs his name to the document.
Okay, so if there's a lie, if there's a fraud, that's a problem. But we didn't have a problem. Well, we had somewhat of a problem, the early church did, with the questionable authorship of Hebrews. So both Second Peter and Hebrews fit into the category of antilegomenon. Second Peter, in fact, because its authorship was called into question, right?
Yeah, right. But spoken against, I mean, it just means it wasn't unanimous. So it does end its way up in the canon. So I'll preach on Second Peter all day long.
Yeah. So this question came up because I was doing a Bible study on scripture, and it's like you read Eusebius, which I hadn't really before. So Eusebius talks about these books; they're contested, or at least they're not. There's not the consensus. And then the question came up in relation to, for instance, the Apocrypha, which we call not canonical but useful. And the question is like, how do you make sense of these different tiers of spiritual theological literature? Like, what's the point of having something that's not canonical but useful? Or in the case of the canon, what's the point of including antilegomenon if you're not going to derive doctrine from them that's not explicitly stated in other texts?
Well, could you think of any doctrines that you could derive from anti-legomena that couldn't be derived from other texts?
Well, yeah, that's exactly right. So then why even bother? That's the question.
Well, so that Lutherans can grandstand, and when you want to make a doctrinal point, they can say it's anti-legomena, so you can't say that. That's why.
Okay. All right. Well, I ended up saying the point is you don't have to read them and you'll be fine. You should. Second Peter and Hebrews, you should read them. Revelation, you should read them. But actually, kind of what we're saying is you don't have to because you have the gospel. So
Oh, so we're a different kind of gospel reductionists.
yeah, you're right. That's exactly right. Well, and but that's exactly what we're saying though. What the church said when they were like, we don't have to split hairs about this, or we don't have to be divisive about this because it is actually something about which we can agree to disagree, and that's fine.
Oh,
Which is
sure.
why which is
Okay.
why it's tolerable that Luther calls James an epistle of straw. It's whatever, I mean, you can understand where he's coming from and the context, and you can disagree with him, which I do. But I actually don't have to. I don't have to hold him in contempt for saying for questioning James because I don't actually need James. I have the Sermon on the Mount. You know.
That's right. All it is commentary on the Sermon on the Mount. So that's right. This we should do an episode on where Luther was wrong, and then everybody's going to get all upset because we're going to do
Perfect.
100 episodes on where he was right.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of which, I think this is episode 44, maybe, or something like that. Yeah, I think it actually is. It lines up with the chapter right now because we did 6 through 9 as one episode a ways back, and then we had two non-chapter episodes, I think. In any case, this is episode 44. We should plan something big for episode 50. Just just saying.
And that if we keep doing this, we'll be on the last chapter of Genesis. We've almost been doing this for a year.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah. Okay. So go back. Let's see. You give me your favorite ecumenical creed.
It'd be the Nicene Creed, and I think that's just for historical reasons. I think the years between 325 and 381 AD. That's a long period of time. Like that's longer than I've been alive, and those are the most consequential years of church history for developing the dogma of the person of Christ and the Holy Spirit. And I didn't mean the word develop. I mean just extracting from the Bible. But the fact that the Orthodox side won, even though there might have been even more Arians, just astounds me.
Yeah, that would be an interesting way to trace church history. Would be to see all of those surprising places where the Orthodox side won. I'm thinking about this because the LCMS is a case in point. Like that fact that we emerged from the 1970s with a doctrine of the Bible that is Orthodox is pretty incredible.
I mean, you have to believe that God preserves His Word and the Church.
Right.
Somebody was just asking me about this a couple of weeks ago. It's like, how do you know that the Bible that we have like hasn't been tampered with? And I was like, well, all the textual documents we have, that's pretty astounding. So that's great evidence there. But then also, it's like, I mean, you got to believe that God preserves His Word too.
Yeah. It is a confounding series of questions because it's certainly the modern impulse, although I think there's probably something universal about it too, to establish the authority first, and then accept the claims. But the claims really do come first for the Christian. This is explicit in our understanding um, of the order of salvation, that before you agree to Scripture, you agree to the gospel, and then and that's why you can confidently say, well, and this is what Luther says, in fact, about Scripture. Scripture is authoritative to us because it drives Christ, because it delivers to us Jesus. And that's interesting too, because that gives all kinds of steam to the Parthian gospel reductionists. That's not what he means, you know. But the order is very different epistemologically for a Christian than it is for the modern.
Yeah, because if you just go into something blindly accepting its authority at first, then you're prone to a whole bunch of errors, like saying I'm going to follow Luther no matter what because he's the authority.
Right, right. And of course, there is an interesting critique of that concern about fideism, because as Rene Descartes will say, you have to you have to trust something at some point, right? You know, so
That's true. So I'm thinking about writing these articles on gain of function theology and tracing it, like how we got to where we are. And I'm thinking about starting with Descartes, and maybe you can help me. I think he's a good place to start because he's really the first modern mind, and what he does is he applies the scientific method to philosophy, and that's where the unraveling happens.
interesting. So I would want to see. I've been reading Truman, that the shortened version of his tome on identity. The shorter version is called The Strange New World, um, and he sees the turn to what does he call it? Experiential identity. Experiential identity. Um, he really puts his finger on Rousseau as the starting place for that. So that would be really interesting to see the connection between Descartes, who grounds the knowledge of anything in consciousness, right? So I can be sure that something exists because I wouldn't be able to ask the question about the existence of things unless I exist, right? I think, therefore I am. But there's a turn that takes place in Rousseau where things, where the how does he put it? It's like your identity comes primarily from within instead of something that's assigned to you. Uh, but my point is, I think that that's directly related to this gospel reduction, this gain of function theology. You know, like it's in the air we breathe in America for sure, but it also it is so infectious in the church. What does this text mean to you? How do you hear and understand the Scripture? Right, every Bible study that's been written for a long time doesn't ask the kinds of questions that should be asked by Bible study, which are simply, what does this say? What does this say? And what does it mean? Instead, they ask questions about, like, how do you feel about this, right?
So we're way bigger on the mystical understanding of Scripture than just like the basic factual
Yeah,
reading
right,
of it.
right. Which I think, I mean, I can't say for sure because it's been a long time since I thought about these things, but I think that that's something Descartes, for instance, would be open to. You know, it's like once you've established consciousness, still you're going to take your perceptions and you're going to like test them. You're going to see if your perception is true, right?
Well, yeah, and it's notable that he's starting from a place of doubt with his entire method. Like, th- he doubts his existence, which is his starting place, which is a crazy place to start.
Yeah, yeah. This will be good. I'm looking forward to your charting of this history. That'd be really fruitful.
Okay, well, thanks. I need to get to work on it. I'm delaying to gin up demand.
There you go.
Okay, so we've talked about Apostles' Nicene, and then the real reason I asked the question is because I want to talk about the Athanasian Creed, and particularly the ending where we say, those who have done good will enter into eternal life, and those who have done evil into eternal fire. You get questions about this on Trinity Sunday?
No, because everybody has stopped listening by then. Um, and if they had a question, that question remained with, "This is the Catholic faith." and and
Okay.
and that they haven't accumulated any more questions. No, those questions have come up, although they really end up being kind of secondary. They're like, what is this nonsense? Why are we circumlocuting about this so much?
I mean, my questions are always, shouldn't we call it the Augustinian Creed, since most of the language is directly taken from On the Trinity by Augustine? And then I give the person a hug and say, thank you, my son.
Nobody has ever asked you that question. Nobody has.
Uh, yeah. Don't call me out like that.
Right.
I'm just waiting for it, though.
Okay. Yeah. Right. No, that'd be good. Now they know what they could do to make their pastor happy.
So, okay. So my reason for asking this and connecting it to Genesis 44 is because this is plainly scriptural. Matthew 25, for example, right? The sheep and the goats. And those who do good, right? Those who feed Jesus, visit him in prison, all those good works there, he invites to inherit heaven, which has been prepared for him. And those who have done evil, who didn't visit him, all those things are cast into hell. And the connection I'm seeing here, that which you did to the least of these, you did to me. Joseph is playing this kind of test on his brothers. So that which
Okay.
you did or did not do to Benjamin, you did to me.
Okay. That's good. Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. I was just looking because you reminded me in Matthew chapter 16, which I referred to yesterday as the context for the transfiguration. But Jesus makes a couple of things really clear. For instance, if anyone will come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross, follow me. So that's interesting. He explains it further. For whoever would save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake will save it. So there's a connection here as well to like whatever you did for the least of these you did for me, and what are you willing to do for me, right? Are
Mm.
you trying to save your life, or are you willing to lose it? And then to tie that all together, he says, for the Son of Man is going to come with his angels in the glory of the Father, then he will repay each person according to what he has done. So
Wow.
so it's like then just think about it in the context of the transfiguration. I mean, Peter is trying to understand the gospel, and he's heard uh, and seen lots of things. You are the Christ, the Son of the living God. But you have to take up your cross, and you're going to get repaid according to your deeds. And then he's on the Mount of Transfiguration. He's like, let's just remain here. Forget about forget about going down the mountain. And I mean, you really, what about all the people that are left down below at the foot of the mountain, including that demon possessed boy whose demon the disciples can't cast out, right?
Oh, that's good. Yeah. So, okay. So he doesn't want to pick up his own cross, and he also doesn't want Jesus to pick up his cross either.
Yes. Yeah. That's right. That's right. So this is what Judah exemplifies just so vividly. He's picking up his cross.
And I think the order of operations is important. Obviously, we bring on this as Lutherans, right? Go read the Formula of Concord article 4, right, on good works. And the language has always struck me because it's like good works are necessary, period. And you can't add anything to it. Right? So
Yeah.
we condemn the phrase good works are necessary for salvation. And we also condemn the stupid saying that good works are detrimental to salvation. Um, so we got to keep the order right. It's faith and then good works. And the Augsburg Confession already does this in 1530, right? Justification, Article 4, ministry, Article 5, which I think is interesting putting it there, and then new obedience, then Article 6. So it's good works that flow out of faith, which the formula says that good works like prove that the faith is there.
Yeah. I was thinking about how that varied use of the word necessary, it makes complete sense. It's not like some highfalutin philosophical notion. Like we understand this intuitively. It's like if I said it's necessary for you to go to work, I don't mean that like in order for you to live, you have to go to work. I mean, like if you want to keep your job, you have to go to work, right? It's necessary in one way and not necessary in another, right? Completely sensible.
Right. So if the brothers here are like, all right, Benjamin, see you later. We're not willing to sit in prison for you. Do they have faith?
Yeah, clearly not, or at least their weakness is prevailing, right? Their flesh is triumphing over their spirit, right?
Right.
Yeah, because
Now,
I mean that's always the tricky pastoral question, right? So, um, when somebody does something that seems that is a necessary good work as an exhibition of their faith or as proof of their faith, when they don't do it or they won't do it, I mean these are really crisis moments, because then you find out, is this person open to repentance or not, right? Are they, like, will they turn or not?
I, yeah, have you ever thought that when you're about to do something that God just wants you to do clearly because of your vocation, and you think, all right, here's my opportunity to see if I have faith or not.
Yeah, that's right.
That's
That's
such
what
a
I
weird.
that's what I
That you say that all the time.
Well, no, I mean, it's something I said yesterday about joy. So St. James says, "Count it all joy when you experience trials of various kinds." And it's like, when you've got a trial, this is now this is now your opportunity to find out: do I actually believe Jesus or not? Am I willing to call this joy?
Oh yeah, that's good. Um, on the other hand, it seems kind of weird if you're like, um, all right, I'm gonna open up the door for this lady here, and that's because I've got faith.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. I think it's probably more. You could only really have that conversation with yourself when you're keenly aware of your flesh trying to, that's resisting the thing, right?
Hmm.
Because the Pharisees, who want to display their righteousness before men, they're not doing battle with their flesh at all. They're just, like, they're opening the door for that lady, and they're saying, without any contest, there's no contest here between the flesh and the spirit. They're just saying, this gratifies my flesh.
That's right. And then yeah, when they make donations, they get out the big check and announce it with trumpets.
That's right.
Do you I am utterly astounded also by the complete like transformation. And I think we can use that word, right, for the new Christian life. Paul says in Romans 12, right? Be transformed. Which, by the way, you know what that Greek word is?
Was it transfigured? Metamorpho.
Yeah, it's yep,
Phao?
yep. Metamorphosis. Yeah, that's the transfiguration. Um, be
So,
transformed.
oh, go ahead. Keep going.
Oh, I was going to say, like, there's several things here in this chapter which they explicitly did not do back in chapter 37 when they
Okay.
sold their brother into slavery. And now they're given another shot at it, and they do the exact opposite. And so their faith has now come to fruition.
Yeah. Um, I was thinking about the if you can kind of pinpoint the turn, because they experience this fear. Um, Why does my Lord speak such words as these? Verse 7. Far be it from your servants to do such a thing, right? And then they make this claim: we're innocent. Whichever your servants is found with it shall die. And I was thinking about that. I was thinking about that oath, which is rash. It's a rash oath. Okay, so whichever your servants is found with it, you shall die. And then they begin searching. And then when they find it and are dragged back, here's what Judah says, verse 16. What shall we say to my Lord? What shall we speak? Or how can we clear ourselves? God has found out the guilt of your servants. That, I think, that's the crucial moment. It's not that, like, you discovered this wrong that we did, because they know that they didn't steal the cup of divination. They know that they know that Benjamin didn't do that either. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been so confident in that oath. So they know in this moment that they've been caught by God.
That's okay. That's really good. And the fact that they bring up God.
Yeah, right.
I was thinking about that oath about whoever it's found with, when we put to death. So we saw that earlier with Jacob when Laban's chasing him, going after the idols.
Yeah, right, right. Like
Um,
father, like son. Yeah,
yeah. So thankfully, Rachel is having her time of the month, or not, but that's what she says. So the idols don't get found out. But then we got to talk about Jephthah at some point. with
Yes.
his rash oath. Now
Hold,
there's
hold on for 1 second, because just like think about the irony of the fact that it was Rachel who did steal the teraphim, and here it's Benjamin who didn't steal the cup of divination. Same object essentially.
yeah, and same
That's
and
really interesting.
mother
Mother
son
dot.
too.
So, right, exactly. Yeah. Fascinating. Okay. All right. I'm gonna have to chew
Yeah,
on that one a little bit more.
yeah. I mean the parallels are just striking. Well, okay, so here's what gets reversed. So back in Genesis 37, right? They want to kill or sell Joseph, and now they're willing to risk their own lives for Benjamin, the son of Rachel. Back in 37, they're so heartless to Jacob. They fake his favorite son's death to him, and now what does Judah say? Um, he he says if
We
this
can't
happens,
we
then
can't do this to our father. Yeah. Right.
right, yeah. So they're actually taking the father's feelings into consideration. And I was thinking about this too. It's like, okay, there, if you get the son, then you also get the father, right? In Trinitarian language.
Which the way that Judah describes it is potent. Uh, he's not just describing how his father feels about the son, which is true enough, but he says his life is bound up in the boy's life. Uh, they are like, what is it? They're like of one essence essentially. Their lives are bound up together, right? I mean, that's potent. Yeah,
Man, we got the Nicene Creed all the way back here.
right. Hmm. Interesting. The Septuagint word there is um ek krematai. His life hangs on the life of the boy, which is what people do when they are listening carefully. The people were hanging on his words
Hmm.
in the gospel. Anyways,
Oh, interesting.
that's fun. Yeah.
Okay, and then
Okay.
back in chapter 37, it's Judah who suggests selling Joseph for profit, and now he's the one who offers himself in his place.
Do you see um any evidence that the thread of Judah's change in his metamorphosis goes through the story with Tamar? Do you see? I mean, obviously, we're meant to see a literary connection there, like historical literary connection there. But do you see any legacy from what he's saying and what he's doing, that like he's thinking also about Judah, about his episode with Tamar?
Yeah, that makes sense because he's willing to just kill Tamar right there on the spot, right?
Yeah, which is that's kind of the more extreme. That's like ramped up. So he was willing to sell Joseph and kill Tamar. And it's like he's gotten worse in the intervening time from Joseph to Tamar, right?
Right, and she flips the tables on him, and then he realized this is the great Nathan and David moment. Like you are the man.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, so that makes a whole lot of sense, and that's like that's where he hits rock bottom. But that's probably also where his repentance happens.
yeah. You think about how significant that moment is, and how probably when when he could not find the woman that he was looking for, he hoped to himself that it would all just go away, which is, of course, the worst thing that can happen to a person. Like David, when he's murdered Uriah and the baby has been born, just hoping that everything will go away. Um, and again, that's the worst thing that can happen to a person, when what you're wishing away are the consequences of your sin.
Yeah, and in what ways does Jesus's death take away consequences?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'll tell you, specifically, I've had this conversation about in the topic of, you guessed it, divorce. Right? Does the crucifixion of Jesus take away the consequences of divorce, which would include the prohibition against remarriage? So, if you've been forgiven, does the cross of Jesus really in some way take away the temporal consequences, which would include a prohibition against remarriage? But you can think about it in other, like in other venues as well, right? Obviously natural consequences, Jesus doesn't do away with them. He doesn't undo them, right? So if you um, if the kid disobeys his dad and grabs the skill saw to play with it and cuts off his hand, temporal consequence of disobeying your dad is that you don't have a hand anymore, right? The cross
Yeah.
doesn't
So
undo that.
so is it helpful then to say that Jesus takes away the eternal consequences for our sin, but not always the temporal consequences? Because I could see where, like, you well, and it doesn't have to be even sinful, but you see, like, cliche example, somebody smokes their entire life and then never gets lung cancer.
Yeah. Um, okay, so now that's gonna so is smoking sinful and is lung cancer a temporal consequence for the sin of smoking? Okay, but I think we can lay that aside to some degree because it does strike us. It does strike us like that you got away with this. Okay, so you're right. Somebody is a drunk their whole life, and they don't get liver disease. You know, but biblically, there's this example: the woman caught in adultery who should be stoned to death according to the Mosaic law. Jesus does run interference even on the temporal consequences of her sin. Right?
Right. Yeah, so sometimes he does suspend the laws of nature, which is by definition what a miracle is.
Yeah. And
But then he
I mean,
does,
the way to put it is like he does it because he wants to. He decides when and where he will do that.
right, and then he does tell her to go and sin no more, right?
Yeah.
So the point with either one of allowing the consequence to play out or somehow miraculously stopping it. So like David's allowed to stay married to Bathsheba, and God blesses that union with Solomon. But it's not up to us though. We can't think like I'm going to go into this sinning and then God's going to bless it. I think which is precisely your point, right?
Yeah. And in fact, the Christian ought to say, um, man, the consequences that I deserve for the things that I have done are far exceed what I've actually experienced. Right? Do you ever have these moments where you're like, this should not be going the way it is for me?
Well, yeah, every day of my life is a cry for existential help.
There's a great meme I saved somewhere on my computer, where it's like a dump truck unloading a load of pennies or something like that, and it's like, if I had a penny for every time the Lord, but didn't give me what I deserve. It's great.
Oh, that's good. What's the what's the boomer trolley problem meme again? Do you remember?
I do. So this is one of my favorite things. the the trolley problem, of course, has one person tied on one track and then four people tied on the other track, and the train is going towards the four people, and you have an opportunity to throw the switch and just have one person be killed, right? And the question is this ethical question about your agency and what are you responsible for, and so on, and utilitarianism and all that. The boomer trolley problem says is you've got one person on one track and no people on the other track, and the train is headed towards the one person, and you could throw the switch, but you don't throw the switch because you say it wouldn't be fair to all of the other people who were run over by the train previously. Oh, it's so good.
Oh, that's good.
Which
um,
is actually, I mean, the relevance of that is striking to me when it comes to preaching, because, for instance, like there's this sensitivity to preaching about how things should be. Like take marriage, for instance. You preach a sermon about how marriage should be, and if you talk about the ideal, uh, then there's this potential alienation of everybody whose marriage is not or has not been ideal. And what about them? And if you identify the ideal, you are making them miserable by just like kind of describing what they can't have, and it's not fair to them, right?
yeah, I don't think Plato's all that bad.
Right, right,
Like like forms
yeah,
have to flow out of the ideal, and it doesn't. like obviously has to be marriage, which flows from heaven, right? Which is Jesus and the church, right? Paul makes that explicitly clear in Ephesians 5, great mystery, but also for something like chairs. Like you have to have this heavenly idea of a chair. And if you don't, then, and then people are going to feel bad. Like my chair doesn't look like that. Well, fix the chair.
Exactly, because that is the exactly what my reflection was as I was preaching about marriage, and I was thinking about the kids, and I was like, if we never say what the ideal is for the kids, then they'll never have anything to aim for, right? We're setting them up for failure if we say to them, look, everybody around here has broken marriages. The best you can hope for is a mended broken marriage, instead of saying, no, here's what the ideal looks like. Okay, so the thing that's required in preaching is you have to do both. You have to describe the ideal. You have to say, this is how God designed things to be. And you have to do it in a way that is unabashed, right? And plain, and describes it optimistically. This is possible. Like you can attain this by grace. But then you also have to explain what you do with sin. Like how do you as a Christian handle sin? And it's not the impulse to explain it away or justify it or um like abdicate yourself of responsibility for it, right? The answer is repentance. So here are the two options. One is we're going to talk about what God says is good, or two, we're going to talk about how you didn't do what you were supposed to do and you suffered because of it, right?
And it's got to be, yeah, it's got to be both.
It has to be both. Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, Judah's the prime candidate of this.
All right. Where were we? Sorry for the interruption.
Hey, that's fine. Somewhere in Genesis 44, talking about Judah, and we'll talk about him a whole lot more. If we really did our homework, well, we can do this post, because we're going to read all the blessings in Genesis 49 and try to connect how all of their lives really brought out here. I was thinking so this is such a trivial detail, but in verse 3, talks about the men were sent away with their donkeys. And that animal obviously becomes so important, but including in the blessing on Judah about the colt being tied to the vine.
Right. Huh. Yeah. Okay.
And nothing else to say other than the fact that I'm not entirely sure that the donkey is a symbol for only humility. Now, it has to be partially because Zechariah 9 says, your king is coming to you riding a donkey. Right, humble is what Zechariah 9 says. So that's part of it. But if you trace the donkey throughout the Bible, I mean, it's a kingly symbol, which is why in John 12 on Palm Sunday, John does not mention the word humility in a citation of Zechariah 9.
Okay. Well, let me put those things. I was just looking up Zechariah 9 because I was thinking, is the word for humble could be something more like gentle. Praus. That's the Greek word there.
So that would be meek, right?
Yeah, and I'm thinking about how that is a kingly quality, right? So when we think of humble, we think lowly, like impoverished or of low station. And that's not the station that a king occupies. Even when the king is serving, he's doing it in like his humility is a matter of gentleness, right? That he's it's not because of a humble station by nature. It's because he is offering himself in service. I'm talking myself around in circles right now, but I'm just thinking about how like it is becoming of a king. It is becoming of a king to be gentle and humble. So we're not talking about low station when we're talking about Jesus riding on a donkey.
Right. Now it's perfectly biblical to say that Jesus is humble. I was thinking of Philippians 2, right? He humbled himself by becoming obedient to the point of death. But that humility is before the Father.
And it's willing subordination, right? It's willing. So it's not by necessity. I'm thinking about how the surest sign of like authority of authority and confidence is your capacity to to be humble, right? So the guy who is terrified of losing his position wouldn't ever deign to, plunge the toilet because it's beneath him. But the guy who's very confident in his station would do it in an instant because, um, first of all, it actually serves his people, and also because he's not going to lose his position, right?
Yeah. Oh, good. You got me thinking of the Greek word exousia, right?
Yeah,
Authority. So Jesus, by what authority do you do these things? And I love it because it's ex, so out of, and then ousia, your being, your essence. And so Jesus
yeah,
isn't like he's the eternal Son of God, so he can gladly do all these humble things. Like wash his disciples' feet, and he's not afraid of losing the authority that he has because it comes from within him.
right. I always love, to that extent, the story of Moses with Dathan and Abiram and Korah, and the way that he handles it, because he's just like, God will decide. I don't have. He doesn't say, like Moses doesn't say. I use this example with my kids all the time. Moses doesn't say, "I'm the boss here. You have to listen to me." It's just like God.
Now,
God will decide.
I think both things can be true because that obviously happens, but then Paul is also at great pains to show his apostolic authority.
Right. But he does it not by boasting of his strength or his capacity. Right. He does it by boasting of his weakness, the sufferings he's received. Right.
Right. But he does say, and he says, I'm speaking like a madman. He's like, if you guys want to have a competition about who's the better Jew,
Right.
well, okay, let's go. But then at the end of it, he reverses and is like, I'm not going to boast in this because this is clearly stupid. Rather, boast in my weaknesses.
I was meditating on the way that he talks there in 2 Corinthians about his contentment. He says, I'm content with hardships and afflictions and sufferings and persecutions. And I was thinking about the use of that word content, which in another place he says, with food and clothing, if we have these, we'll be content, right? Or something to that effect. And that's usually the extent of our capacity for contentment, is like, if you give me my daily bread, I'll be content with that. And Paul's like, no. I'm content with suffering. It's so good.
Paul was a dude.
Yeah, he was. He was. He should have come to our Sword of Gideon strength competition.
That's a, well, he admits he's frail. Do you think he would have done
Right.
some bodily training?
What? Yeah. What does he say? I discipline my body, put it in subjection. Now, maybe that's fasting for him. Maybe that's what that amounts to, right?
Right. So how were you did that ad read earlier about fasting when you're training for your Sword of Gideon. And when is that? May 1st?
May 1st. Yeah.
Is that I'm sensing a strange parallel here between Muslim players playing in the NBA playoffs during Ramadan and Pastor David Buchs preparing for the Sword of Gideon during his fast.
I will say, and I thought about this when I was contemplating protein supplementation, whey protein, which is a really effective, like it's almost indispensable if you want to put on muscle, right? It's hard to eat enough protein from natural whole sources, at least on a budget. It's hard to do that. So, but here's the thing is that, like, it honestly feels to me indulgent to be consuming that much food. Feels gluttonous. It's a different kind of gluttony. It's not in order to put layers of fat on my belly. But it does feel not just like a feast. It feels something more. Feels like something more than that. I don't know. It's interesting.
What's your favorite flavor of protein?
If I could choke it down dry, I would. I don't care. I put it in I put it in water and I stir it up as fast as I can and I just chug the whole thing. I don't savor it in any
Oh
way.
my, oh my gosh, you are a madman.
I
I
have
this is
I have I have a poor relationship with food. It's purely functional for me.
I was gonna be like, he's gonna say flavorless. He's gonna say it. You got man. Okay, maybe you're just better than all of us. So what I like to do is either get chocolate or vanilla. Those are the two classic flavors, and then I mix it with Fairlife chocolate milk. It is
Mm,
it's so good. It
that
tastes
does sound
like
tasty.
It tastes like a dessert, but it's it's my post workout treat. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
You got you got anything else on Genesis 44? I know you had a couple things you wanted to toss at me.
Yeah, I don't have anything. Let me just double check here. Um, I love the suspense, and the kind of amplification of the test. So we thought it was a good test already in what, chapter 41, no, 42, and then it gets better and better still. And I do think that matters a lot as a description of like uh, that what the human heart is capable of in terms of deception and hypocrisy. And Joseph is not going to be satisfied until until his compassion breaks out, until it busts out of him, right? Until he can't contain himself any longer. Which I think, at least introspectively, is how we ought to view ourselves, right? It's like, don't pat yourself on the back too soon. Um, you know, uh, until you have reckoned with the fact that God has found out your guilt, and you are throwing yourself on His mercy, and like that's really what the gospel is for. But instead, we tend to give ourselves kind of free passes, and we're like, yeah, I'm a pretty sincere guy. I'm trying my hardest, right? God, and people say it that way, right? God knows what's in my heart. He knows how hard I'm trying. And I'm like, you know,
Well, it's true. The meme was like the guy has a tattoo on his chest and it's like only God can judge me, and the meme is like,
yeah,
yeah, and you should be terrified.
right, right. Yeah, I
You,
mean, of
you're,
course, in all of this, there are like neuroses on both sides of the equation, right?
Right, right. You brought up kind of like the dramatic irony in this, because this is like he lines them up last chapter, right, by birth order, and they're like, "What's going on?" And now he does the opposite, or I mean, it's the same thing. He starts with the oldest, and he's just ramping up the dramatic irony. It's like all genres, all literary devices flow from the Bible, and you
Yeah,
can imagine,
right.
like they get to the first, 10 brothers, and they're like, "Oh, phew," and then you get to brother number 11. I was thinking it's like Deal or No Deal. Remember that show with Howie Mandel, right? That's the guy who kind of looks like you.
I never saw it, but yes, I do know it existed.
Well, the premise. You pick a case from the beginning, and there's like, I don't know, 30 cases, and they each have a dollar amount from $1 to $1,000,000, and then you start eliminating cases, and they reveal the dollar amount, and then each like 4 cases, the banker calls and offers you a dollar amount to sell your case to him, and of course, you don't know what's in your case. You only know what it's not. So
Hmm.
I'm wondering, like, you get through 8 brothers. This would be the fun version. All right. Would you guys like exchange 2 years of prison just in case?
Right. Right. Yeah. Well, and that's to the point, because they are completely confident that they are not going to find that cup. You're not going to find it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And of course that's because the game's been rigged, but
Mm-hmm.
game's always rigged.
As every game, yeah, right. The house always wins. That's another lesson from this episode.
So when this episode comes out, Super Bowl will be in 5 days. So first question, do you even know who's playing in the Super Bowl? And second
Despite my
question,
best efforts, I do know who's playing in the Super Bowl.
second question, let's practice some divination here. Inspired by Genesis 44 with the cup of divination. Who's going to win?
Just based on what I saw yesterday, the Seahawks are going to win hands down.
Okay. I think
So
they do have the better team, and for the record, Las Vegas agrees with you. Not that it matters, but
it was the games that I watched happened to be, or the portions of the games that I watched happened to be dramatic, super dramatic.
oh,
The Bears against the Rams last week was a nail biting game, and I don't care about either team.
you said nail biting. So Caleb Williams, quarterback for the Bears, paints his nails. So my my brother texts me after that wild touchdown and goes, "God's a Bears fan," and I go, "No,
Yeah.
God is not rooting for the team of a quarterback who paints his nails."
And temporal consequences.
That's right. And then yesterday, so start of the game, Um, no snow on the ground in Denver, and then by the end of the game, it's a blizzard slog fest, and I was like, this is how football was meant to be played.
Yeah, that's right. That definitely is the way I was formed to think about football, because you saw all the videos of Super Bowl, the early Super Bowls, right? And there was in Lambeau Field, right? Uh, did they play it? They must have, like, Super Bowl one would have been at Lambeau. Is that right?
Did they
I think it was.
did they have it? I thought it was in L.A., but
Okay, I might
I
be.
wasn't.
In any case, whatever, the Ice Bowl, or the
Oh, that's a
you
yeah. I know what you're talking about. That wasn't a Super Bowl though. I think that was just a regular playoff game.
Okay. Well,
If I'm
I
remembering,
was
but
not paying. No, 1965 NFL championship game is commonly
oh,
referred to as the Ice Bowl,
okay.
played on December 31st at Lambeau Field in Green Bay.
Yeah, but that's not the Super Bowl.
Whatever. It's good enough for me. It's
I know. See, this is true. You're an academic who likes to do your athletics academically. So just, but yeah, football trivia is fun.
okay.
Okay. What you
So
got for me?
two things. One is we had joked about Roller Coaster Tycoon and a church polity tycoon, and this morning, just on a whim, I asked ChatGPT to make a single page web app, church polity tycoon, with the LCMS in mind. So maintaining confessional integrity in an American context. And what's really interesting about, so for one thing, it's just amazing what ChatGPT can do in terms of, or any AI development tool. Like, I can write applications now so fast. I'm not writing them. I can produce applications now to do really, really complex tasks that would have, a while ago, taken a lot of time and a lot of effort. That's really cool. But the thing is that in generating the single page app, ChatGPT is, of course, drawing on all that it knows from the internet and all of the conversations that it's having, and it like zeroes in on the LCMS, and so it very astutely, there's no astuteness, there's no intelligence there. It naturally identifies that the main question afoot right now in the LCMS is this missional versus confessional divide, right? And that there are uh, these structural challenges, like workforce. How many pastors do you have? Financial integrity. Like it gathers all of this data, and it puts these things into into a matrix, essentially, and says, when you adjust these sliders, here's how the outcomes work. And it concludes based on here's the thing. It concludes based on the discourse that's happening right now, that there is a trade-off between confessional integrity and missional advancement, right? So if you're going to maintain confessional integrity, you are not going to reach as many people with the gospel, and the stability of your institution your institutional infrastructure is going to become weaker over time. That's the conclusion that it draws naturally. So you can maintain confessional integrity, high standards for pastors, and high level of discipline within your polity, but the result will be that you will run out of money eventually, and you won't have any pastors. Uh, it's not drawing that conclusion on the basis of any research or sociological studies or anything like that. It's drawing that conclusion simply on the basis of the discourse that is taking place right now, which is, I think, an interesting way to use a tool like a large language model. It's like, it is not a test of reality. By no means is it a description of reality. It has no predictive, no divining power, but it is a really good test of what the sentiments are of the people who are, speaking on the internet, which is fascinating.
Yeah, my question was like, do you think that assumption is true?
Well, it can't possibly be true that there's a trade-off between confessional integrity and evangelism, right? Because confessional integrity is the root of evangelism. So if there's a trade-off, it must be the case that your evangelism results, the outcomes that you consider to be successful evangelism, are the result of giving something other than the gospel to people, right? Something less than the gospel to people. So if you measure missional success based on butts in the pews or number of people who have heard the gospel, You can absolutely accomplish that to a greater degree by sacrificing confessional integrity. But that's not what evangelism is. That's not what mission is. And that, I think, actually is a key point that needs to be elucidated. Um, that when we're talking about like measurable outcomes, of course we want to talk about, we can talk practically about how many people hear the message, but it can't be how many people accept the message, or how many people, are alienated or feel like they were treated with hospitality. It can't be those measures.
Sounds like a blaze to me.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So, anyways,
That's
I sent you the web app. You could play it a few times and just kind of see what happens. It's not very sophisticated. It was a single pass through, but it was fun for me to think through the conclusions that a cold, objective observer would draw from the discourse that's taking place right now, which gets to my second point. But I'll tell you that in a second. You go ahead and comment.
yeah. If you become our patrons, we'll send you the web app
There you
for
go.
for 50 cents a month. What a deal.
I just saw a recap of this guy who made one of the first viral apps for an iPhone back in like 2009. And it is a beer drinking app where if you hold your phone, it tips. And he sold it for $2.99, and he became a millionaire. And that's what I want to do. I would like to do that.
So I used to think like our conversations. So this happened at convention. This must have been 6 years ago. We were going to pass this anti-woke resolution, and it ended up passing. Maybe you remember it. It was a whole debacle. I was pretty discouraged by it because it was like we just weren't willing to say basic biblical things. But somebody got up at the mic and said, if we pass this will put a target on all of our backs. And I was like,
Right.
who is reading, other than Tim Wood, the minutes from the Minnesota North Convention? Like, like we're just, whatever now. But now that you're saying that AI is monitoring all of our conversations, is there something to be said of like, we actually need to be thinking about the conversations that we're having publicly, so that when people are looking for a good, faithful, confessional, solid church, maybe we don't want AI to see all of our dirty laundry.
Yeah, that's interesting. The dirty laundry would only be a problem if it is a matter of sacrificing confessional integrity, right? So, like the thing is, Tim Wood isn't reading all of those minutes. AI was reading it for him, right? And can clearly identify a difference in tone, a difference in language, and a difference in focus. I was thinking about that one YouTube comment we got that described us as basically loveless and joyless, which is really interesting because I don't. Listeners, you chime in and you let us know. Do you think that we're loveless and joyless? I think we're pretty joyful. I think we're pretty joyful about the gospel, in fact. And this is the thing, is that like if you are an observer and you're reading snippets here and there of things, and for instance you see a contentious conversation happening at district convention, right? You can draw a very narrow conclusion that's probably not accurate about the whole. And there is some benefit in like having that contentious conversation put in context of here's what we're after. Here's why this conversation took place. And that's actually that like more visibility would be better, in fact, than less visibility.
Yeah, and our whole point is to get people to talk about the Bible. So did you see that comment
Right.
that we had from a pastor in Florida who said,
That
"Thanks
was
for
really
talking about the
nice.
Bible"? Didn't that warm your heart?
It warmed it so much. It was great. He got it.
That's what we're trying. We should have you on, my friend, and
We'll look you up, buddy.
Yeah, we'll talk about the Bible. Okay, what's your second thing?
Okay, so this is all connected because we've been have had several guests over the last 44 episodes, and we've got some fun guests coming up, including next week. District President Brady Finnern will be on, and then down the line, other fun guests. And we have talked about like networking. How do we get access to people who would want to join us? It's nice when people say yes, and when the pitch is, "Hey, you want to read the Bible with us?" It's a novel thing, right? It's really not happening in a lot of places. Okay, so when you search for the Cloudcast, the first podcast that comes up is a podcast about cloud computing. And I listened to their most recent episode, which was like their 1,000th episode. They've been producing this podcast for 15 years. And okay, but by the way, the second podcast that comes up is the city of St. Cloud, Florida, their podcast, which includes like conversations about traffic flow and things that are happening. It's really,
And
it's boring.
you listened to the whole archive, didn't you?
I just okay, but the cloud computing one, these guys are really interesting. And I was like, networking. I could write them an email and say, hey, we're at the Cloudcast too. We cover a completely different subject matter. However, we do talk about AI, and the intersection might be kind of interesting. Moreover, so here's my question for you. It would be interesting to hear what a completely random person thinks when they hear a biblical narrative read. So I was trying to think about the place for that in discourse, in our conversation. Like we come at the Bible from a common understanding, and that's really the presumption. Even when we have a Baptist on, it's like we believe the Bible to be God's word, and so you can make some theological hay that way. Is there something to be gained from hearing what a completely objective observer, maybe a non-Christian, maybe a person of a different religion, maybe an anti-Christian, whatever it might be, what they hear when they read a biblical text? Is that also one of the reasons why, like, listening to Jordan Peterson on the Bible can be interesting, because his angle is completely different. Okay, so that's my question for you.
Yeah, sounds like fun.
Okay.
Let's do it. I'm always curious as to even like what our people in the pews hear. You've had this happen, Pastor. That was great. This is what I got from your sermon, and it's like that was not what I was going for, but glad that's what you got.
Yeah, right. What is it? There are three. There's the sermon you intended to preach. There's the sermon you actually preached, and then there's the sermon that they heard, which is, it's dreadfully postmodern. I hate it because in fact there is something objective there.
The problem with communication theory is like it's just common sense, and then you felt like you had to make an academic field out of it, so then you got a lot of nonsense.
Yeah, that's right. You reverse engineered reality from something that is just like, well, this is how communication takes place.
Where you went to college, were the communication professors always the one who communicated the worst?
No, I don't think so. We had a really high quality communications department at Bethany. In fact, one of the communications professors was a national champion impromptu speaker in college forensics. So
wow, okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
At Concordia St. Paul, and if any of my fellow classmates are listening, you'll know who I'm talking about. I think it was the chair of the communications department. He was the grumpiest man in the entire world.
Really good at communicating, just doesn't want to.
That's right. Or communicating, I'm angry.
That's right. Okay, so I'm going to reach out to these guys. I'm going to send them an email. I'm going to say, hey, funny story. We're the Cloudcast too. We're coming up on episode 50, and here's what we do. Even if for 15 minutes you would just like tell us what you hear when you hear this biblical text, would you be up for it? It'd be kind of fun.
That would be fun. Do you think we'll get a cease and desist letter?
Yeah. Well, the thing is that they have to go after the city of St. Cloud first. So St. Cloud, Florida, that is. So
yeah, guys, we promise their pockets are deeper than ours. Hey, have you heard of the sport known as ski joring?
Yes. What is it though? I've heard of it. I can't remember what it is. Ski joring.
So apparently it became a thing like in the 30s, but you got a horse and a rider pulling somebody on skis behind them, and they go like as fast as they can, and the person on the skis has to pick up these rings and like go over jumps and stuff like that. It looks insane, and I just discovered it this weekend.
That's awesome. There are more sports in the world are like insects in the Amazon jungle. There are far more than you realize, and there are more being discovered all the time. My source for this is John Boy Media on YouTube. He has a segment that he does that every week, and it's called Things You Missed. And he
Hmm.
highlights sports things that you would never have seen because you weren't looking for them. And he's always highlighting these really weird sports, like I think it was maybe Finnish baseball or Norwegian baseball, some Scandinavian countries baseball, where the distances between the bases are of increasing length and they don't go in a diamond shape. It's like first base is to the left, second base is way over there to the right, third base is way to the left. And if you hit the ball into the river, the outfielder has to go into the river to get it and bring it back into play. It's awesome.
Oh, that sounds great. Here's another thing that grinds my gears. I don't really like potatoes.
Not in any way, shape, or form. Like not
I,
even
I
French
mean, if it's
fries.
like, oh, the French fries they're okay. I much prefer sweet potato fries, but like just like chopping them up and just they're fine. They're okay. I'll eat them, but just not my thing. But fun fact, did you know Mr. Potato Head when it first came out, and I think this was the 50s. Um, it was just the accessories, and you had to use a real potato.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah, and then it wasn't until later that they developed the plastic shell. And I only knew about this because what state was it? Was it Rhode Island? Because is this Mattel? Um, yeah, I think it's Rhode Island. I heard that they're discontinuing their Mr. Potato Head plates because Mattel is like they're pulling out of Rhode Island. Or it's
Oh,
Hasbro. It's Hasbro, sorry.
okay, yeah.
Mattel is Barbie. But yeah, so that's the big drama going on in the country right now.
Uh, Unrelated. How have you ever tested how fast you can type? Of
Yes,
course you
yeah.
have. Yeah, because you were typing super fast just there. That was
Oh,
really
yeah.
it was impressive.
Um
It was impressive.
so you should reach out to my high school keyboarding instructor, and I don't want to brag, but like 160 words per minute.
160. Okay, I haven't done this in a while. I'm gonna have to check and see because I can go pretty fast too. But
Yeah, it's
that's pretty
it's it's
good.
it's what I'm best at in life.
How does that fit into athlete who does academics? Well, that fits in perfectly. There you go.
Yeah, my fingers they
You did,
move.
you were doing finger exercises. They've got this new device I saw that's meant to improve the dexterity of pianists, and so it's like an exoskeleton, and it will move your fingers for you. And the idea is like it trains trains neurological responses so that your fingers just get accustomed to moving that fast. You're not using your muscles, but the exoskeleton is doing it, and your fingers develop the capacity. So maybe there are untold speeds still available for you if you would ramp up your technology a little bit here.
I'll look into it. Appreciate the the input.
All
Great. Well,
right,
I'm looking
this has
forward
been
to,
fun.
yeah, let's have a good week. Stay warm.
Yep, you too. Adios.
Toodles.